the big family. And then from there onwards, you are definitely free to get interactive with us. And we are live on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube Live. Without much ado, let me take this moment to introduce our discussants that we have for the moment. I do have the lieutenant making a comeback, having missed out 2 Saturdays due to official duties elsewhere. We welcome you back.
Yes, I'm very happy to be in the studio.
It's looking radiant, like
yes, why not? It's good to see you after a long time, and good morning to our listeners.
Good morning to you too.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew was not with us last Saturday. We welcome you back to Andrew.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Not very good at home, malaria and some flu. So I'm wishing my family a quick recovery. But I'm fantastic. I'm doing well, despite the runnings up and down. But it's always healthy to do the runnings up and down. Yeah.
All right. We hope to be joined by the Fast Communications Manager in a tiny bit, because we have quite a number of matters that need attention, urgent attention from those of you stakeholders, the stakeholders of Zambian football. We may be the board of football luminaries in the studio, but you that is listening in and watching us live via Facebook Live and YouTube Live, you are the stakeholders, not the shareholders, but the stakeholders, of this beautiful game of football. And looking at what we have to look at here, of course, Mutual now has a contract officially signed and sealed, 2-year contract.
Yes.
All right, now he'll be getting his money. He's $25,000 per month.
A month.
All right, that's cool money for Micho. All right, not only that, the league is up and running, but it has been dodged by quite a number of positive COVID-19 tests, from different players. We'll get to talk about that. These are some of the things that we anticipate, ladies and gentlemen, that our Fast Communications Manager will be able to bring us up to speed on how Football House is prepared in tackling this pandemic in football circles. All right, and then also in that regard, Lucy, there's something quite interesting that we're going to look at in relation to my previous talking point.
Yes, so the Ministry of Health says it has engaged the Ministry of Sports. That is following the resumption of the Football League, and that new recommendations would be announced soon. So the Health Minister Chitaluchi revealed this yesterday during the national update on the COVID-19, and that it had kept a close eye on happenings and opened talks with the counterparts at Sports Ministry.
Yeah, well,
are we going to do
the motivation
before we get carried away?
Trying to whet people's appetite. But thank you very much for bringing me in, Jake. I almost got carried away. Please give us the motivation today.
Let's do the motivation before we get carried away. There's so many nice things happening, and there's so many things that are blocking those nice things to fully come to fruition.
Yes, but the word of the Lord comes first.
Absolutely, yes. Okay.
Now, there's a word that we always misuse and use properly in our daily lives. The word that appears so many, I forgot to count, but it appears so many times in the Word of God, and the word is love. I enjoy talking about this word because it's a life-changing word, and it always brings a lot of things alive in our lives. So, love is important. Love is at the core of families, it's at the core of relationships, it's at the core of everything that we do in our lives. So let's learn to use the word love properly. Let's learn to exercise the word love. Let's learn to bring it into action, because even the Bible says that with love, it covers a multitude of sin. So it's a doing word. It's a word that you cannot just say, but you need to put it in action. So out there, yes, there's COVID around, but let us practice love, because with love, you cannot hurt anybody. With love, you actually, do not exercise hurt, but instead you exercise love. Good morning, dear listeners.
Awesome.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that motivation. All right, so we've been joined by Sydney Mungala from the Football Association of Zambia's Communications Manager. Welcome, Sydney.
Thank you very much, and good morning, listener.
Awesome. All right. At least we could make use of Sydney from now up to 12 hours because we had to fish him from his hectic schedule just to
Yeah.
have him share one or two things, and then we can release him at 12 o'clock. And we've been joined by the protege, Mapalo. How are you doing, man? And how have you been?
Thank you very much. I'm doing
On
just
top of the
alright.
world.
Yes,
On
on
top
top
of
of
the
the
world.
world. We celebrated our first title in
Champions.
30 years. I'm ecstatic and I'm just happy to be here as usual.
Awesome.
And
Great.
and batted Chelsea 5.
Yeah, I mean, what a match.
Fantastic.
Great stuff. Great stuff indeed. All right, now gentlemen, let's pick it up by looking at matters that are pertinent before we get to move on to the international front. Those of you that have questions, please send them via text message. All right, you can send them via Facebook Live or via YouTube Live. If you'd want to tune in via YouTube Live, log on to YouTube and then please hit the red subscribe button by subscribing to Lorenzo Entertainment TV and then post your comments there. Valverde Cafulo says, tuned in already, thank you. And then he says, I'm just happy to see FAS and the government resolving the issue of Mitchell's contract. We'll get to talk about that in a tiny bit. Patrick Banda says, tuned in, looking good. Good to see Mitchell sign the contract. Let the job begin. All right, thank you, Patrick. Then AP Alex Dola says, good morning, the board of football luminaries. Mairo Iliko, here is my top four. Liverpool 1, Chelsea in second, United in third, and Chelsea fourth. Wolves versus Chelsea, tricky game. Leicester versus Man United, New York, and they can draw. And Chelsea, if not steady, can lose to Wolves. And you know what that means. Kudos to Andrew Kamanga for admitting the mistake. We learn from our mistakes on COVID-19. Mitchell's 2-year contract official. All right, and enjoying the show. Thank you very much. And then Samanash Mubiana says, I'm currently in town. Just bought a calculator just for tomorrow's EPO games. I know Chelsea and Leicester are qualifying for the Champions League. All right, thank you for lightening up the mood in the studio. That is Samanash Mubiana. Then Hebrew says, stuck and glued. Happy to see the contract being granted to Micho. I believe in him and he will deliver. He's a good coach. It's unfortunate not seeing any jersey among the panelists. All right. Well, at least someone has a jumper in Sydney. So, gentlemen, I can tell the mood is tilting towards Micho signing a new contract.
Yes.
Let's probably get it from Sydney. 2 years. Finally, the contract is signed. What is the way forward insofar as Micho getting to work is concerned? And then my other panelists could probably chime in and ask you questions in that order.
Well, I think it's a very good step. We've waited for quite too long. It won't be truthful if I said that it has been an easy road to get to where we are. Remember, he arrived on 3rd February, and we had some sort of unveiling ceremony from the FAS side. Regrettably, there was no government representation at that point. But he had already come, and unfortunately, he hadn't come alone. He came with two assistants who were actually riding on him. So imagine the uncertainty on their part. I think if it was just up to him, maybe it was going to be an easy decision to just walk out. So he stuck around. Remember, the breakdown of the contract is such that FAS is paying $15,000, and then government is paying the $10,000. So we have been waiting for that 10,000 for 6 months. At least by 6, that's about 60,000 now. So it has been a process back and forth. As you know, there's no running out from the fact that government is a parent supervisor in this equation. No matter how much difficulties there may be, it always be government being the pretending authority. So we have been negotiating, and a few months back, I think the first step was the work permit, which was granted, which was a good sign for us because even Micho and his team had to have a bit of assurance once that happened. But it had to come to this, and eventually we are happy that he has finally signed a 2-year contract, and government has come through to be paying the difference that they promised to pay. So I think from now we can focus on the football, and we can even take him to account since we are actually paying him and we are meeting our side of the bargain. So it's now a football matter, and we hope that we'll get value for money. 25,000 may not be a lot in other countries, but for Zambia, I think we stretch ourselves to get to 25,000. So we're hoping that this is going to be a turning point for our game.
Okay, all right. The other panelists could probably
what
chime in.
happens with the other assistants he came with? Is government paying them what's going to happen with their salaries? Because obviously, I don't believe the 25,000 is paying for the other two. What's the
Arrangement,
contract or
yeah.
the arrangement?
Actually, 25,000 is a total package.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
yeah.
Inclusive of his
Inclusive
assistant.
of
Yeah,
the
so
other
that's
two.
that's
Okay.
a total package. It's
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
Yeah,
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
There, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Okay.
I think the most important thing is you have a professional setup where you can assign responsibilities.
Yes.
You have a reputable goalkeeper coach and also
Yes.
the assistant. And then we also have on the local front also Admin Tapa, who has done very well with the junior teams, and he also managed to win something last year with the senior team in Namibia for the Invitational Cup. So if we have our own people also being given an opportunity to learn, because as much as Mitchell and his team may be good, they are not here forever. We can always fall back on our local people like also Admin Tapa.
Okay. All right, Andrew and Mapalo, what questions would you have for our distinguished guests?
So did ministry indicate as to when they're going to clear off the 60,000? Because we don't want to see a situation where that builds up and eventually we are taken to organizations such as FIFA. We would like to see a situation where, that there's a plan for that $60,000.
Well, I think fortunately part of the reason it took very long, I think they indicated that they wanted to do it a bit more differently so that we don't have to fall back into the same problems that we've had. So it has been very embarrassing, not just to us in the last few experiences. I think government is the one that has had to have like their name dented.
Yes.
So they did a bit of work in the background. I think the Attorney General did a lot of work to try and ensure that the contract is well structured and also to ensure that we don't commit to something that will not be able to pay.
Exactly.
So I don't think the backlog will be a problem because there was a lot of work that went into agreeing into putting pen to paper. So I think the minister himself was very clear that government was now focused on giving Mitchell the amount of support that is expected so that he delivers for Zambia.
An honor to meet you, sir, Mr. Sidney Mungaila. I just have one small question. So the contract is 2 years.
Yes.
Does this mean there's a certain ultimatum you've given him at this point, maybe to qualify for Africa Cup or make us qualify for the World Cup? And is there maybe a clause in the contract that cut us for extension in case maybe he meets those goals?
Well, fortunately, actually, he didn't have to be fast to answer that question when he was unveiled. I think Mitchell himself did say that he was aware that he had benchmarks that he was targeting. I think the first one was the CHAN, and then the CHAN we have already qualified, by the way.
Yep.
Then the AFCON qualifiers, and also his dream is to qualify Zambia to the Qatar 2022 World Cup. So those are the benchmarks that will be subject. We'll be reviewing the contract based on those targets that have been set. Unfortunately, the other party also understands that this is not just about signing a contract, but it's about meeting certain benchmarks.
Excellent.
Okay.
Sorry, Sydney, I know I've seen in the papers today the Impende Stadium being given to Green Buffaloes. So what does it mean to you when you have other international games or other local games? Is the stadium going to be available for fans, or are you still co-owners?
Well, I think it's a very good thing for football, not necessarily for fans. We've noticed Green Buffaloes is a very big team, and over the years they've represented the country even in continental competitions, although it hasn't happened in the recent past. So independence,
They
2000
did when they went to when they fell off in the group stage.
yeah, but
Actually,
that's
not group stage. At the playoffs.
Yeah.
but it's you have to go back, not in the last 5 years though.
No, it was recently. Wasn't it in the last 3 years?
Are you talking about Green Eagles or Green Buffaloes?
Green Buffaloes.
Green Buffaloes.
Yes.
Okay, let me not. I don't have that statistic.
Am I being wrong?
No.
Yeah.
They didn't do too
No,
well,
they
so
didn't do too well.
so
They-
I understand.
Because I remember the run with Rwanda, I mean, of course, which is far back, the one that I have. But the Independence Stadium.
When they fired Muson, it was recently. They fired him after a short while during the same season. They rehired him. It was after they lost. Was it in Egypt? Was it in Egypt? Or it was somewhere in North Africa. if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I don't have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
as best statistic of they've struggled for a home stadium. I think they've been squatting at Imboela. Occasionally they've moved to Woodland Stadium. So I think a team of their stature deserves to have a permanent home, and that was very important. And they've indicated that they will renovate the facility. Obviously, it's not a FAS facility; it's a Green Buffaloes, but Green Buffaloes being a government team, we hope that obviously we can have arrangements to ensure that maybe our teams can train from there, or if it's good enough, we can even host some games for the junior team. So
Awesome.
It was a very good development, I think.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Let me get to read a few comments coming through via Facebook Live and also via WhatsApp, via YouTube Live. I beg your pardon. Malenga Lungu is asking why now Mr. Smata is not here, so I don't know how. Well, actually, I have to respond to that one. But he says, why is he always on the wrong side of the coin? Okay, if he was here, I would have probably forwarded your question, Malenga,
Well,
to him.
he could be listening. Probably can you?
Hopefully, and then
ask him to
respond.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll do that.
Calling.
Milton Chawala via YouTube says glued in from heavy industrial area, Pajob. Thank you, Milton.
Excellent.
Then Obi Puri says, good morning, panelists. Lorenzo, which club do you support in our MTN Super Division? I'm Lorenzo, I won't say. I don't know how many times I have to say that. All right. And then Benny Muma says, good morning, Lorenzo and panelists, watching you live via YouTube. Thank you, Benny. Abel Silungwe says, Mapalo is learning quickly. Go, Manu, go. Where is Mamuzo to put us in the supporting mood?
Thank you.
Lorenzo, one Madrid and our lady there, Lucy. Come back to Man United. We're back to the Champions League now, before even the boys kick tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, then Musonda Chama Yamishi says, yes, Backpage crew, watching you live from Obama, Lusaka, powerful power dynamos, and Arsenal, great supporter. Thank you very much for your comment, Musonda Chama, there. All right, and then Patrick Banda says, alo malume imwe bakufazi tipasa niko jumper. All right, so now are these where can people buy these jumpers, Sydney? All right.
Well, actually, the jumpers are not yet available, and they've even made the better one. I think if you saw which the one which the coach was wearing, and
yes, the green one, right?
Yeah, I think those will be available for sale soon, but they're not yet in. Yeah.
Okay.
Will be available in all MTN shops across the country.
Awesome, Henry Chavula, thank you for that message. And then Lamek Kamanga, watching from Mufulira. Muma J Mutombo says, watching live on Facebook from Munali Teachers Compound. Update me. Any new signing by Arsenal? We'll get to talk about that in a tiny bit. Let me get a few calls in case the people that want to ask questions in relation to FAS.
Yeah.
All right, and then we're also about, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about how prepared FAS is ahead of this weekend's games. In so far as
the midst of
COVID-19, yes, as Lucy has rightly put it. All right, you're through to Backpage. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Lorenzo.
How are you? Kindly give us your name.
Nixon calling from Solwezi.
Nixon in Solwezi. Please go ahead, Nixon.
Yes. Lorenzo, last week I told you to give me your line. You didn't give me.
Nixon. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll definitely do that today.
I think I'm very much happy for signing the Seven because seeing from his background, I think he has been performing well.
That's Micho, not Sven. Micho. Micho, not Sven.
Oh, yeah. Micho. Yes. I think we have just to give him time. Because if you see why he has managed to perform well, because he had that time and he gets to a lot of people.
Okay.
Yes. So I think it is very much important for us to give him chance, not the way how we are trying some men and some coaches. It is not fine. Yes.
Okay.
And if you can see why our Zambian coaches are failing to perform well, because we are giving them short period of time.
Okay.
Yes. So we need just to try to give them good time. Then I wanted to find out about, I heard that Bitcoin was rewarded 3 points. Is it true?
Okay, let's ask Sydney just to verify that one right away.
Okay, but remember to give me your right name.
Not a problem, Nixon. I'll send you a message after the program.
Okay.
Okay, then thank you. All right. Buildcon. All right. Sydney, is that true?
Well, the game was a walkover. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Kampala never turned up, so
Mhm.
the officials and the other team turned up for the game. So
Mhm.
it's,
3-0.
It's a no
3 points.
It's a no-brainer.
So now this is another point that I would really want Sydney to actually get to comment on. Nakambala Leopards, the owner of Nakambala Leopards, Zambia Sugar, I have put it categorically that they will not play any part in this resumed league going forward. Now, what repercussions will that attract to a side now that does not want to participate in the league? Because it might be 3 points for everyone that will be playing Nakambala week in, week out.
Well, I think the most important thing is when all the teams undertake to start the league at the beginning, you actually sign up for the whole season. You don't sign up for.
Yes. Did Nakambala sign?
Well, they've played how many games? 25.
Over half,
So,
yeah?
yeah. So it should tell you the whole picture, and then you should also understand that the problems that we are going through right now are not exclusive to certain clubs. I think it's a general problem.
It's a general crisis.
Yeah. So even when you have to make decisions based on what you have to do, you must be sensitive to the fact that it's not only you who's going to be affected. But the Nakambala situation, not to play it down, I think the club had a meeting yesterday, and they asked us to give them time to go and speak to the sponsor, and then they'll get back to us.
So the players want to play. It's the sponsors that are not willing.
Unfortunately,
okay. Unfortunately, so. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
in the same line, what is the verdict on the issue of Forest Rangers Zanaco?
Well, I think I prefer to just ride on, because all these things are offshoots from where we are coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So remember, we suspended the league,
Yes.
and then we had the presidential pronouncement that
It should resume.
the league should resume, but the president did not decide to resume the league out of the blue. I think he did indicate that he was receiving queries from fans and different people who were saying other sectors are being opened up. So can you also consider opening football? And he said that initially he even said that he would consult the health authorities, and then once they give a recommendation, then he will be able to give guidance. So he did task the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Sport, and FAS to make an assessment of the situation. And FAS and the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Sport, they had meetings trying to assess the situation, and they got back to the head of state. Remember, he was very clear that whatever he was going to pronounce was going to be based on the recommendation of the experts.
Exactly.
So he made that pronouncement and said, no, football can resume under certain conditions. So again, he threw it back to the Minister of Health. Said, no, draw guidelines, and then once you draw guidelines, make sure that they are clear of everyone, so that we are not just opening football. It should be under these conditions. So the Minister of Health and FAS and the Minister of Sport continued meeting, and FAS on their part decided to meet the members. So we had the meeting with clubs maybe on the 1st of July or 2nd thereabout in Osaka, where we threw back the situation that we have to open the situation based on the assessment of the Ministry of Health. And these games will be played behind closed doors. And to play these games, it's not just behind closed doors, we have to meet certain conditions. So players will have to start training. The initial guidance was in small groups, and then full contact, and then eventually we ran the full course. So we met the clubs at Heroes, and then a few days later, I think on a Thursday in Osaka, Tuesday and Thursday, we went to Copperbelt. We actually engaged them, and in all these meetings, the Ministry of Health, through the Zambia National Public Health Institute, made the presentation to the clubs, telling them that this is what we expect you to do. And others had already been crying that our state will not be allowed to host these games, which pronouncement had not yet been made. So they said you will be allowed to use your facilities, provided you meet the following health conditions. Everyone was agreed at that point, and clubs were supposed to start testing generally across the board if we were to start the league on July 18th. And the Ministry of Health on their part actually said they will avail their district health officers in each locality where the teams were, to ensure that if they needed to be helped with testing, they will facilitate. So fast forward to July 18 when we had games. It was expected, obviously, that by the time we were convening for those games, since we had so much time, to ensure that certain things were put in place. We were only coming to obviously play the game, and we began to hear certain things. No, this team has this number of positive cases, and that's on the eve of the game, and that was even unofficial. So following day, on match day, I think there was a stakeholders meeting that was called, and the Minister of Sport himself was one was chairing that meeting. There was the National Sports Council in that meeting, the Minister of Health, and FAS, and all the clubs that were playing those games. So the idea was just to finalize what was going to happen, because that was the first game. What measures have we taken? What is going to happen?
Exactly.
Everyone was run through that process. And once during that meeting, that's when Forest actually wrote or made the letter available that they were not going to play. And that at that point, FAS had not yet received any official correspondence, apart from what we were hearing from people in football just saying Forest will not play. So that letter came during that meeting. I think the meeting must have been around 10 or 11 thereabout. So that was a very difficult situation, because that was a game that was supposed to take off at 15 hours. And Forest was in that meeting, Zanaco was in that meeting, Police College was in that meeting, Kito United was in that meeting. So it was resolved that, okay, since these people have raised issues, let's not force them to play. I think the other people will pick it up. Remember, it was a health issue. So the Minister of Health and the teams and also FAS convened a separate meeting to assess the situation, which was done. In the meantime, the game between Police College and Kito United proceeded, which was our
fantastic game. I must say, it was a beautiful game. I watched it.
So 15 hours, then the minister said, I think the Minister of Health, I think they were liaising with them, they said, no, let's not convene this game because there are issues around, remember the sample for Ndola against the sample for Forest Rangers, all those things, but those are experts who were arguing about those things. So those were the circumstances under which the first day went. So then the following day, the minister was back. He was there for the whole weekend. I think he convened a meeting for everyone involved. And fortunately, at that stage, we had results for the games that were going to be played. I think Power Dynamo, Zesco, Kansanshi, and what's the other? Buildcon. So he also gave out the statistics of the results, and then said, arising from these results, I think it's the assessment is that we can play, because if you have two positive cases and their immediate contacts are negative, so it means the threat is not it's not there since these people have been together. So that's how we played those games. And then fast forward to Wednesday, we had Zanaco, Nkana. The results, I think, delayed. They almost came at the time the game was about to kick off. So, but it should be noted that Zanaco did not test during that. They had done their tests a long time ago. What delayed was their results being announced. So as the results were availed a few hours before kickoff, obviously they had to change a few things, which obviously is not the best of conditions to prepare for such an important game. So, so those are the things that we've been going through. So, but the most important thing to note is this process has been reviewed step by step. It's not like testing was just being directed now. So if you're having challenges where they're testing you, I think it's very unfair to say it's because someone didn't want you to test or someone didn't tell you to test. Because people are in different places. Even yesterday we had Sinazongo United, I think they have a game. They're around. They also had to come and do the test in Lusaka. Because I think where they were, they had challenges. So these are not football challenges. These are just general health challenges. Even the testing, we can go into the details of the challenges, but that's not the basis of So otherwise, that's the circumstances under which we started. But I think the Ministry of Health has been guiding at every step. And we are hopeful that I think the amount of work that has gone into ensuring that we play these games will see us through to the end of the season.
Fantastic.
Okay. Lucy, you have one more question for him, right?
Yes, I'm seated here representing women. I've also somewhere on our social media platforms where you are saying provincial leagues, including women's, remain suspended till further notice. Would you clarify on this? Because I'm concerned, My women folks obviously are like, oh, Lucy, she's seated in there and she's representing us. Please clarify on.
As in, don't let us down.
You see, okay, the challenge has been that obviously when we announced that the other leagues were going to commence, there was always going to be pressure from the other leagues. But this is something that was designed that it should be done in a phased approach. Remember the numbers in Super League, it's 18, National Division, it's 18. But if you go down to our provincial leagues, you go in the Division 1, 2, 3, and then times 16 teams. So, and then if you have to manage that process, we're talking about testing, we're talking about camping teams, we're talking about, so I think we decided to wait and see if we are able to handle that process at this level, then we can spread it to the more challenging, so that was actually the benchmark, but it's not to say we have neglected, no, it's just that we are reviewing these things, and we don't have to try to pretend that we can handle so much at
and Faz is going to announce something very soon.
Definitely, the Women's League is not even such a bulky.
Because we're doing very fine.
So it will come.
It will come, eh? Let me get a few more calls, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here you go. You're through to Chatback. Antele Daka, how are you? Very well, thanks. Please go ahead, sir.
No. Vanda Mizira.
Not Desmond. This is Sydney. Mungala, not Mugala, Mungala. Yes.
Good morning, Antele. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Amarumi and Tere Daka.
I don't know whether these players after COVID are being paid to my allowances or they'll start receiving now. Because, I understand that the financial was a problem, whether these guys are being paid properly in the process, they will keep prepared. So there's no way to be paid the money. I don't know how much they have got over this thing. When the other thing about the rural areas, no, I don't know what programs they have, but over this COVID, I know that people are doing it in their day because the relief that they are in town is very good. Now it's like in rural areas over this, we are talking about more people have to travel here in Uganda and so on. And they have some of these documents again. So how safe are we in concerning our these problems in the rural areas? And the mission of like Ruth is asking about these women, they're supposed to go, is it in Japan or Korea? I don't know where they're supposed to go. Now, if they are in the program for them, maybe they are just doing physical training on their own. Because last time we were talking that our players were supposed to coming up is fight like even a normal season. So I don't know whether we can set program over this. I mean, I don't have to be very active.
Okay. All right. Okay.
About independence stadium. Even the other club wants to conclude that stadium. That means Buffalo was supposed to pay. Those clubs have to pay to Buffalo or to the government.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Antele Daka. He had quite a mouthful for you, Sydney. All right. Okay. So now, how do you respond to him? And then we really have just 10 minutes before we hit the top of the hour. Added on to some of the points he's been highlighting. Last weekend was somewhat chaotic in that there were others that were going ahead to play without knowing the results of their tests. I don't know whether others were even tested at all. Now, how prepared are you for this round of matches? Is everyone tested, and does every player know their results ahead of kickoff?
Well, I think that's the ideal situation, and obviously it didn't happen in all the situations that we had. Like I said, the call for testing was given way ahead of schedule. In some cases, some teams tested, but the results just delayed in coming. And the challenge was they are being put in the same results as everyone else, because obviously it would be a crisis if you said you prioritize football results over. So those are some of the things that are happening in the background. But I think going forward, we are trying to bridge the gap to just ensure that we don't have those situations where teams get to play without knowing their results, or maybe knowing their results a few hours before kickoff. So we have a gap now between Zanaco obviously is playing tomorrow. They are hosting Kwazi, and then they are traveling to Choma on Wednesday. The rest of the teams will join, I think, on Friday. So we are hoping that the rest of the teams that have had a bit of time to ensure that they clear their issues with health issues, and that's why the Ministry of Health has been very critical in this arrangement, and we are constantly engaging them to ensure that the teams have a bit of a smooth ride when they are doing the tests.
Okay, there's one small thing he also asked about. I remember we once discussed here as well. There was some relief that was given,
FIFA.
yes, by FIFA and CAF. I think he was asking whether that was allocated to some of the clubs, given that some of them have struggled financially during this period.
When there were no games.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think the pronouncement itself came way ahead of. I think they are only getting to disperse those monies maybe in the next few days. I think that money is tied to some. They have to provide some guidelines under which we have to access that money. But fortunately, I think they did indicate that we are free now to apply for. I think it's 500,000 US dollar as COVID relief funds for all the member associations. So the misconception was that money had already come and probably it was sitting somewhere, and the clubs were struggling with these things and no one cared to share those resources. But I think once that money is there, the idea is to make this very easy for everyone. And I think you should also imagine that I think FAS has also had to use some of its own resources to help out some of these teams, which is not enough. And fortunately, some teams are well placed in this setup. They did it on their own, and but I think it will help when this money comes. I think it will be a matter of public knowledge that this money has come, and you'll be able to know how much each team has been allocated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me also read a few comments coming through via YouTube Live. All right, this one comes through from Wilson Sakala, who says, "Good morning, panel. Is it true that Patson Daka is joining one of the EPO teams?" Wilson Sakala from Garden House. Well, from my end of things, it's not true. All right, it's only Lille of the French League that had expressed interest to sign him, but the Red Bull Salzburg team turned down that offer. Noble Mayembe says, "What lesson have we learned from the FAS government situation? We do not repeat. Secondly, how good is the communication with government so that we do not disturb the team?" This is Noble Mayembe from Doha in Qatar. Thank you very much, an ever consistent contributor to this program. We appreciate that. Noble, say hi to the Sheikhs.
Excellent.
All right, in Qatar. All right, then Tedson Piri says, "Watching live and direct from Cabanana Site and Service."
Excellent.
Noble says, "Thirdly, will the communication manager shed more light on the issue of the raid of officers at FAS from law enforcement agencies? What's the status quo?" All right, yes, what's the status quo on that one?
Well, I think they had gotten away with computers, which they have since returned. So, as in with any law enforcement
Did
process,
they come back intact?
well, we will only know.
It's something I would say hopefully.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
as any law enforcement process, I think we wait to hear from them. They told us that if they need anything, they will get back to us. So, as for now, we are. That is where we are. The computers were returned.
They didn't even indicate what they were looking for.
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, all right. Just the last round of text messages before we go for a breather. All right. Joe Mfune says, "Good move by government to sign Mitchell's contract. Nga tualimwenako na FIFA. Let them also commit to paying him on time." All right. And then Pride Lusoke says, "Morning, watching you live from Kalumbila district, specifically Mutanda Farm, 40 kilometers from Solwezi along Kasempa Road."
Excellent.
Great. Thank you, my Pride Lusoke, for tuning in. All right. Tandeo Chisenga says, "Watching you live here in Kabanana. Where is Uncle Muzo and Vachea? Uncle Muzo is tied up with work. Uncle Chea has had car trouble and his car can't start, so he can't make it to the program." And then Kennedy Chunguli Wongani says, "As always, glued and watching you from Quito's Wulangililo Township. Saturdays are never the same without this lovely show." Okay, and then Mutale Tuka says, "Watching you guys from Australia, always making my Saturday nights easy as I listen to this special program." Thank you, Mutale.
Thank you.
I know it's nighttime in Australia as we speak,
Yes.
but we truly appreciate your time to stay up to just listen and watch via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Brighton Mwanza says, "I'm glued, thanks." Malenga Lungo says, "Congratulations to the Liverpool family winning the league. Some are fighting COVID top 4 finish, or how the mighty have fallen, fighting for top 4. Hala Madrid." Then Mama Chia says, "Good morning, brothers. It's a privilege to be alive. Football is in the blood. Backpage is the place to know. In Micho, we signed 2 years. Wow. In Lorenzo, we speak Spanish. Wow. In Zanaco, we are sensational. Cool. Blue is the color. Chelsea, Chelsea. In Stamford Bridge, we are frank with the Champions League qualifying, no doubt. Bola Yapa Zeti Titamba. Thank you, Jason. Jason Hogberg says, my concern is on transparency. Kufaz. Fans advertised for the jersey designs and we submitted the designs, but up to date, no feedback on the designers. Tell us, who designed that jersey? Sydney, that's the last question for you for today. And then Joy Meaty says, good morning, guys, live in the program, watching from Livingston City. All right. Who designed the jersey? Someone says they applied and nothing has come up yet.
Well,
in about a minute or so.
Okay, I don't really know the person who designed, but I think it was an open process. They invited people and they shortlisted. They made the presentation before a committee, and then the successful one was picked. I think that information is very much available at Football House. I think our marketing department is on top of that project, so there's no issue of a shady transaction. We have been improving the jersey. If you saw the first one that we had, people gave us feedback. And we worked on the first one. The second one is what we have, and we are open to, because after all, this is a national jersey, it's not a first jersey. So I think people should feel free to share ideas wherever they have these ideas about the jersey and anything else.
All right, we're catching a breather, Lucy and the gentlemen. So join us on the other side. Sydney would like to appreciate you having made time, at least up to 12 o'clock.
Thank you very much. I always feel at home when I come here.
Please, we hope to have you back pretty soon.
Make it a habit.
Yeah, he should make it a habit. So we're going to cut transmission a bit for our YouTube live audience as well as our Facebook live audience, but you